Oh my God. I feel like this is like the most exciting video that I will ever make. Like, I am so giddy. I feel like I haven't been a functioning person since the proposal. Thank you to Squarespace for sponsoring this video. You can use code Molly Burke to get 10% off your purchase of a website or domain name. I am sure all of you by now have seen I was gonna say my boyfriend, but my fiance take over my channel, and I wanted to do a little sit down chit chat, Molly rambles story time about like my side, my perspective of this whole situation. Just like the same way I've been FaceTiming all of my friends for days now. So the proposal happened on Sunday. Today is Wednesday. And like I said, I feel like I am yet to be a person. I am just a fiance. I'm just living on my high, my bubble of being newly engaged. And I'm just, Elton, did you just move my chair? I think he just swiveled me a bit. Elton's at my feet. Yeah, okay, where to start? Okay, I'm engaged. Okay. Be a person, Molly. So, first off, I am like of the personal belief, I'm not saying I'm right, it's just how I feel like for me in my relationships. I've always felt like you should know that a proposal is coming. Like you should, as a couple, be on the same page that that is where you're at in your relationship and that's the next step that you're both ready to take. So I knew that we were going to get engaged. We've had this conversation for a long time. We've been on the same timeline that like around the 3-year mark was when we both felt like was a good time. And our 3-year anniversary was February 23rd. So I had kind of felt going into 2026 that it would probably be like in the first half of the year, like the first 6 months was my estimate. So I knew an engagement was coming. We had discussed the ring. I always said to him, I would rather you spend $500 and get something that is special and unique and meaningful than $10,000 on a generic ring that you walked into a store and picked up. That is just my personal preference. So, and I think part of that comes from the fact that like I've been very fortunate to be able to afford to go buy myself nice jewelry at nice stores, like the Cartier bracelets I'm wearing. So I think the like just having like an expensive fancy thing doesn't do it for me. What means so much more to me is like something sentimental and special that he put effort and intention into, not money, if that makes sense. I don't have any judgments on anybody else's rings, engagements, proposal stories, like whatever you want that's special to you is great. I'm so happy for you. I'm just saying like what for me I always wanted. So I did for the ring give him like parameters. I said I wanted it to either be white gold or platinum for the metal. I didn't want yellow gold. I wanted it to be low profile, so I didn't want like a big stone sitting high up that'll just like get caught on stuff. As a blind person, I'm using my hands all the time. So I just wanted something that was like easy to wear every day. I wanted it, like I said, to be custom, to be special, to be unique. I did not want it to be traditional. I wanted it to still look like engagement-esque, but I didn't want it to be like a classic engagement ring style. I wanted it to be chunky. Like I've always loved a chunky ring. I didn't want dainty, thin, fine metal. I wanted like hard-wearing, chunky. I did want it to be stones that were suited for an engagement ring. Say like a pearl is not ideal for an engagement ring because they're very soft and they don't do well with being worn all day every day. Same with like opals. So I wanted a stone that was hard wearing, but I did not care if it was natural or lab grown. I did not care if it was diamonds or other stones, gemstones. Like I was very open to whatever he wanted to do with it. So that was the parameters around the ring. So I knew that he was like in that phase, that he was like designing it, but I had no idea when it would be ready, if it was ready, what it was going to look like none of that. There has been like a handful of times over the last 6 months where I've been like, is it now? Those times were not our anniversary, Valentine's Day, or my birthday. None of those three did I like think it was gonna be, although funny enough, originally it was gonna be on our anniversary. So it would have been a surprise because I wasn't expecting that. So the first time that I thought, ooh, is this it? Was back in July, actually, when we were in Toronto visiting my family and our parents met for the first time. We did like a little parent meeting and we did a trip to Niagara on the Lake. So we like rented an Airbnb as a unit. So there was like 3 bedrooms, his parents, my parents, and us. And we had like a little family weekend. And I thought like maybe, especially because like, I don't know, we had been talking about rings lately and like what I wanted and all that kind of stuff. And we, like my mom in the car ride there had made a comment like, ooh, like maybe I'll have to go ring shopping with him at some point to like help pick out a style or something. So I thought maybe she was saying that to throw me off because they had already done that. Like, I don't know. I had no idea where they were at in the process. So we get there and the first night we're having like family dinner and it's all going so well. And then at one point he goes, we all have to go to the front of the house to watch the sunset. And he's like demanding that we all get up right then and there and we all go to the front of the house to watch the sunset. And my stomach did a little flip. I was like, oh my God, is it now? Is it right now? And I like had that moment. No, he just wanted to freaking watch the sunset as a family. I don't know. He was just excited about the sunset. He's just a nerd for a sunset. And so it was not that moment. And I was like, oh, okay. And then the other moment was a few weeks ago, right between my birthday and Valentine's Day on February 13th is my friend's birthday. And she invited us to a birthday dinner. But I like hadn't looked at the invite. And then like that day I was like, hey, it was a Friday night. So that afternoon I was like, hey, where is the like party tonight? And he was like, oh, it's actually at this garden. And we had previously had a date at that garden. And I had said, this would be like such a perfect place for you to propose. So then I was like, did he like decoy? Like, did he have her invite me to her birthday dinner, but actually we're going to go and he's going to propose? So I had like this little moment when he said that it was at that gardens because I didn't even know that the garden had like a restaurant. So I was like, oh my God. And then it wasn't. It was actually just her birthday party. So yeah, those were like the 2 moments in my mind that I can like think of over the last 6 months that for sure I was like, had that like tummy and feeling where I was like, ooh, suspicious. And then it was not. But what's funny is I had none of that on Sunday. Did not enter my brain at all. In fact, girl, I would not have gotten a red manicure had I suspected. Okay, that is a dead giveaway. I would have gotten proposal nails. I would have gotten bridal engagement nails, aka like nude, white, French manicure, like something very like simple and clean so the ring gets to have her moment. But I got red because my outfit was like a black dress, gold heels, gold purse, gold jewelry, bold red lip. So I was like, I'll do red nails and toes, like manicure, pedicure. So this is the dead giveaway that I truly had no inkling at all that it was coming. So before I get into the rest of the story, I do want to thank the sponsor of today's video, and that is my long-term partner, Squarespace. I've been hosting my website, mollyburkeofficial.com, on Squarespace for as long as I can remember at this point, but this past year we did totally revamp it and give it a facelift, and we used one of their newest tools to help us. Design Intelligence uses cutting-edge AI to help you build a beautiful, bespoke online presence for your business or brand that fits your unique needs. All you have to do is answer a few quick questions, and then it helps generate the website for you. Of course, you're able to tweak it from there, but it really makes it so simple and seamless. And once your website is up and running, you can start making money immediately by selling content. You can sell anything from courses, blogs, videos, or memberships. And then you can set up recurring revenue by putting up a paywall. Just set the price and then you choose whether you want a one-time payment or a subscription. Even if you don't make content, there are still ways to make money on Squarespace by turning any lead into paying clients using proposals, estimates, contracts, and even invoices all through your website. So if you're ready to get building your Squarespace website, head to squarespace.com/mollyburke to get 10% off your purchase of a website or domain name. Okay, and now back to day of. Well, actually, I'll go week before. So, like the week before, we were at CSUN, which is a huge conference for work, and I was so busy. I gave away 400 signed copies of my book. I was at dinners, meetings, the booth all day doing signings. Like, it was such a long few days. We came home Friday morning, and I was so dead. I had no voice. I had lost my voice. I was exhausted. I literally couldn't function all day Friday. I was just like laying in bed like a lump. And my period was due on Saturday. So I was like also just really tired because I was hormonal. And I slept literally 12 hours that night. Woke up Saturday, I felt really good. I went and got the nails done, got a spray tan, went to the gym, and then we just spent the rest of Saturday just like chilling on the couch watching TV because I knew Sunday was going to be a really big day with this Elton John gala that we were going to. So I was like, I really need to rest up. And I also, again, like my period was due, so I was like expecting it to come. And I was like, I either want it to come on Saturday as it's supposed to or not, or like on Monday. I don't want to get my period on Sunday because it's going to be such a long day out in like a skin tight gown. Like I did not want to have to deal with like, is it going to come? I was really praying it was going to come Saturday. It did not. I go to bed that night. I often do not sleep well when I'm hormonal, so I did not really get a great night's sleep on Saturday, but thankfully like the Friday night I had slept so well. So I get up Sunday at 9:30. Hair and makeup came at 10:30 a.m. Okay, and this was really funny because my parents were helping us like coordinate the plans for the day since we had been at the conference the whole week, so we were so busy. So they had coordinated a car for us and they had booked hair and makeup. And I was like, why did they book it so early? The event was at 2:30. And like, yes, there was like 1,000 people going. There was going to be lines and stuff like that to get in and like traffic because it's Oscars night. But like to leave the house at 11:30 when we are 20 minutes from the venue was like, why do we need 3 hours? But my parents were like, well, Molly, remember when you were in the Oscars commercial for Samsung a few years ago? Like the traffic was crazy. Because I called them. I called them on Saturday. And I was like, are you sure we need to do it this early? Like, can we push back an hour? That's crazy. And well, first when I called, they weren't answering. And they were like, oh, mom's in the shower. They were not. They were in the Uber on the way from the LAX to their hotel. I'm oblivious. I'm also like super hormonal, so I try my dress on for the first time because I just had a dress in the closet. Like I did not want to go out. I only knew it was black tie like 2 weeks prior to the event. Getting black tie, which is floor length gowns for women, when you're 4'11", 2 weeks out from the event, when I'm going to be at a conference for a full week, not going to happen. So I had one full length gown that I'd worn once a few years ago. It fit perfectly. Haven't worn it since. So I was like, might as well like make use of what I have and just wear that again. But I hadn't tried it on. So I was like, I should try my dress. But I'm like so hormonal on Saturday. So I tried it on. I'm like, I'm bloated. I'm hideous. This is horrible. And I'm like all emotional about it. But I had like no other options. So I was like all feeling like meh. And I'm like calling my mom. They're not answering. And then they call me back once they're in the hotel, aka my mom's out of the shower. And they're like trying to convince me that yes, I need to leave at 11:30 because like there's going to be so much traffic, there's going to be a long line, you want to get there early, and like you could just go get lunch near the venue because there's all these nice restaurants around. Like better to be there than to be stuck in traffic and get anxious. And like if you know me, if I'm on time, I'm late. I love to be early. So I was like, you're right. Like I will be stressed if I'm in any way late or stuck in traffic or in a big line. Especially because they said the night started with champagne and caviar, but it was only for 1 hour, 2:30 to 3:30, and I wanted that caviar. I was craving caviar from my hormones. The moment they had said that, my brain was like, caviar. I've had caviar like once in my life. But they said caviar, and my hormones was like, yes, I want it. And like, when am I going to buy caviar for myself? So I was like, ooh, bougie. And then my partner was like, there's this beautiful like historic home near the venue 5 minutes away. We'll just go and like take nice Instagram photos. You know, at events it's so hard to get pictures because there's people in the background. We're busy, we're networking, like it's so hard to get pictures. The step and repeat, like they just take photos and who knows how we'll even get access to them. So like let's just go. We'll be early. We'll take photos at this beautiful garden for Instagram. And one of my like New Year's resolutions this year was to get back into taking more photos for Instagram. So I was like, you're right. That makes sense. Again, none of this is triggering me in the slightest at all. I don't know why. I feel stupid now. But then hair and makeup comes at 10:30. I do the thing, get glam. 11:30, We leave. We get in the car. He like takes this little Instagram story of me on the way to the event. I'm literally not triggering at all. So funny. We get there, we get out, we start like wandering around the gardens. It is beautiful. He's taking pictures of me, finding different spots. We get a like random couple to take a picture of us together. And I have this like little moment in my head where I think this would have been a beautiful moment to propose. Would have been. Still not thinking he's going to. I'm just thinking, oh, this like would have been a cute moment. Not at all expecting it. Then we go to this section where like this beautiful raking light, which my boyfriend loves a raking light. And there's all these trees and he's taking photos of me, and that couple that took a photo of us asks us to take a photo of them. So we're doing that. And then the moment that you guys saw in that video happens. He's like, one more thing, like before we go. And he gets down on one knee, and like, I'm like so embarrassed of my reaction. I feel like I did not like, I would never be the girl to jump up and down and cry and stop. That's not me. Like, that is just not my personality. And he didn't expect that of me either. Like, there's no universe that would ever be me. Especially because, again, like, I knew this was at some point coming. And like, he knew I was going to say yes. Like, again, the question of like, would she say yes was never in his head. It was never in my head. We both knew. But I just was so like caught off guard in that moment that I was like, I feel like I like went out of body. Like, I like wasn't even there. And he like hands me the ring to feel it because, of course, opening the box to a sighted woman, like, she can see it. I can't see the ring. So he hands it to me, and I just like autopilot put it on my hand. And he's like, what? Take it off. And we got this adorable photo, which was actually taken by a follower of mine. So cute. She airdropped it to us after. But she turned the corner right as he started proposing. So she like stopped, and she knew who I was, and she started like taking photos. And I'm like laughing, holding my hand and like laughing, which is like, that is my phone background now. We're getting that frame for the wall. That is such an iconic, beautiful photo. I'm obsessed. But that was that moment because I was like, oh my God, you're right. What am I doing? But I just like truly I was like in such, and I was just like, it's a yes. I mean, it's formality that we're doing this whole thing. But I don't know, like I always dreamed of that moment. And I think being a disabled woman, I know there's going to be other disabled people who resonate with this feeling, but like there was many moments in my life when like I did not think this would happen for me, when I did not think that I would find a man who loved me unconditionally, where I did not feel lovable, where I did not feel like, if a man can pick a sighted partner, why would he pick me? Like, I listened to all of those ableist beliefs of society, and I internalized that. And so I feel like even though he knew it would be a yes, I knew it would be a yes, even though I knew it was coming, like, I still wanted that moment of that engagement because there was so many times in my life when I never thought I would get that moment. So even though I'm not a hopeless romantic, and I am not somebody who likes grand gestures of romance, like, that's not my love language. I am like, I want to be your best friend, not your princess baby angel. Like, that's just not me. I don't want to be your honey sweetheart. I want to be your bestie. And that's truly what our relationship is. Like, we're just best friends, and we have so much fun, and we laugh every day together. And so I'm not like the person who would typically want like that princess fairy tale down on one knee moment, but I feel like that girl in me who so many times in my life questioned if that would ever happen for me and I would ever find somebody who loved me truly, wholly, unconditionally. Like, I needed that moment. But then when it happened, because even though I wanted it to be a surprise, like, it was such a surprise that I just was like, I don't know. My reaction is so embarrassing, but it was authentic. I was not performing for anybody. I was just caught off in the moment. And so I handed him the ring back. And what's, again, like, so us, like, the whole proposal was just so us. Like, the fact that I like snatched the ring and put it on my finger in autopilot and was like, well, it's a yes. And then he, if you caught it, didn't even say, will you marry me? He said, can I put the ring on now? He did not say, will you marry me? And so just so us, really funny. And then I literally had called my mom that morning to check my hair and makeup. And I could hear that she was outside, and I like assumed she was on the seawall in Vancouver, like out for a walk. I was like, so when he was like, your parents are here, I was like, what? And like, he knew that I had always wanted to celebrate with my loved ones after. Like, that was something that was important to me. In a dream world, like, all of our family could have been there, but like, his family is much further away. And it was just really important to me that my parents were there to celebrate. And that's not important to everybody. And I understand that. And some people will probably even think that that's weird that I wanted that. But my parents are my best friends. And again, like, I feel like they never doubted that I would find somebody, but I did. And they've seen me through like all of these moments in my life of feeling like unlovable and unworthy, and like the amount of times in my life that I cried to my mom as a teenager and in my 20s about like no man's ever going to love me. Like, I just felt like to be able to have them there to see that moment and be a part of celebrating it, because they've been my biggest cheerleaders my whole life and just always so supportive and bend over backwards to do anything to support me in my life. Like, I just wanted them to be there for that moment to celebrate, like, I made it, I found the person. And they adore him. Like, he's been family this whole time, you know? And they've been like waiting. They've been so excited for like, when's it gonna happen? So it was just very special for me that they were there to see that and to capture the behind the scenes photo and video for us. And I had like a tall order. Like I said to my partner, I don't want it to be like in a restaurant or like a big busy venue. I wanted it to be intimate and private, but still like special. I wanted to be surprised, but like, I don't know. I wanted to have my nails done and look good. Like, I had all these things that I wanted. And the fact that he actually shocked me, I don't know how he did it, because we live together, we work together, we're together 24/7. So the fact that he pulled this off, I am very impressed. And in the car, like, what we took more photos. We like walked around, took photos, called our family, you know, did all the things. And then we were like off to the event and we got in the car. And he was like, he looked back at the footage and he was like, oh my God, I never asked you to marry me. So in the car, he was like, will you marry me? And I was like, yes, of course. We did a little formal thing. And then we went and we like had a little bite to eat near the venue, which I feel like I had been like so focused on the event and like everything going well that I was like so anxious. And he had been anxious, wanting, again, not because he didn't think I'd say yes, but just wanting it all to go smoothly and like all the things to fall into place. And so, yeah, I feel like we were both like, okay. So we like had a little bite to eat. I had a little green juice. He had a Arnold Palmer. We had some French fries. And yeah, I don't know. I was just like still like not, it like wasn't hitting me. One thing that's really funny is he actually had my parents like wear hats and glasses and hide, even though I wouldn't have been able to see them, because he knew if Elton saw them, Elton would like get really excited and I would be like suspicious or like be like confused. And so my parents were like hiding under a bench, hiding behind trees the whole time, which is hilarious. And it's so true, because when they came out from behind the trees during the proposal, I could tell that he did see them, like in retrospect, because in the photos you can see he's like looking off to the side where they were standing instead of like being all up in my partner's face, which typically when we get down to Elton's level, he's all up in our faces. So I feel like if they weren't there, he would have been shoving his nose in the ring and in your face, like, which is probably for the best that he wasn't, because that would have been even more like distracting and overwhelming, which was already such like an overwhelming moment. Like, both of us were shaking, which is so funny because I felt like we've been engaged forever and this was just like a formality, but it's weird how it does actually feel different. And like how in that moment you're just like overwhelmed and it's just, yeah, it's like you're flooded with emotions. But it wasn't until like I was at the event and had a glass of champagne that I think like it like relaxed me. Having a little bit of alcohol like took away that anxiety and stress and nerves. And all of a sudden I was like, oh my God, we're engaged. You're my fiance. Like, it's like, that's when it actually hit me. And it's like slowly continued to hit me in different waves and moments. But it is weird, yeah, like how different it's felt. Even though it's just like a stupid ring on your finger, it does, I don't know, it does feel different. And it's been really fun. I didn't actually get caviar at the event. They did a bait and switch. So we got caviar. I like splurged, and I was like, you only get engaged once. So I went yesterday and we got caviar and bellinis and the crema, and we got a bottle of my favorite champagne. Well, my parents got it for us, Moet. And last night we did a little champagne and caviar toast to celebrate, which was so special. And I don't know, it's just been amazing, and I cannot wait to share like this next chapter of my life with all of you. I've literally been sharing my life on the internet since I was 20 years old, and I have gone through so many versions of myself and so many experiences, and it's been incredible sharing all of it with you. And I feel like many of us have grown up together. Like many of you found me when you were in your teens, and you looked up to me like a big sister, or like when you were in college and we were the same age going through the same things together, or some of you are older than me and like have watched me like a little sister, and it's just like really cool. I get those kind of comments all the time. That's why I'm saying that. But it's really cool to think that now like we'll be able to go on this part of my journey together, planning the next stages. And let me know if you guys do want like a YouTube wedding planning series, or if I should just do it on like short form, like TikTok, Instagram. I don't know if it would be like fun and interesting, but our plan is to do a California road trip to go try to find like the perfect place to get married. So if you guys want like behind the scenes, I don't know, like wedding dress shopping and all the stuff of like being a blind bride, let me know and I can do that. But I might just do it short form. So let me know your thoughts. Would love to hear it. But yes, it's just, I don't know. I've been rambling. I'm sure there's so much more that I could say about this whole thing that I've forgotten, but it's kind of all just been like a blur. And as I said, I'm still barely human. So it's because I'm not human anymore. I'm a fiance. I'm not a mortal human. I'm a fiance. Anyways, that's that. That is the story from my perspective and the behind the scenes of leading up to it, and why my reaction was the weird reaction that it was. Although I did hear recently another creator say that she had that like moment where she actually snatched the ring and put it on her own finger before her fiance said, "Will you marry me?" So I feel less bad. I'm not the only person who went into autopilot when I was handed the ring and just, had my moment. But anyways, very funny. That's that. That's the story. Thank you to Squarespace for sponsoring this video. Use code Molly Burke for 10% off your purchase of a website or domain name. And if you did not see that adorable takeover from my boyfriend, fiance, I gotta get used to it, you can click over here to watch that video. And if you want to hear the story time of how we met and our love story, yes, he was one of my YouTube subscribers. That is how we met. You can click over here and hear that story. Thank you guys so much for supporting me and loving me and being on this journey with me and getting me to this point. I love you all so much, and I hope you have a beautiful, wonderful day. Bye.